Tom's boot began to slide very slowly in the mud. Not blossoms, he decided. They were flowers on a gown. Then he saw her all at once, a woman, maybe dead, her upper half held above the water by the branch. He slipped and spun around, clutching at the grass and muddying his coat. The river nearly got him, but he bellied up the bank. He mounted Bones, who cantered away before Tom was fully balanced on the saddle, and they raced along the riverside in something near to silence, just the hooves' boggy suction and the rumble of the flood. They hurried south toward the town 2 miles off, where the ferry rope stretched bank to bank above the river. It was his only chance of catching her and holding her in place before the water swept her off to Dunderaqua Falls. Every breath seemed to blow directly into his heart, billowing his chest and flushing through his veins. They were riding so fast, his hat blew away. The old bullet in his shoulder ground against bone. He squinted left and saw the branch still carrying the body. Then he lost it in the mist. They were barely keeping up. Where the river met the mouth of Damp Mill Creek, the flood spilled wide across an acre's worth of grassland. Tom, so preoccupied with following the woman, spurred Bones onward into the new-made marsh as if expecting that the flowers were indeed solid ground. Bones splashed in and waded to his chest. They struggled through the mire to the high, firmer ground, up a slope lined with birches to a thin, bare ridge. There the ground turned hard, but they were suddenly befogged, suicidal as they galloped in their blindness on the path. Now the river was invisible below them to the left. They would storm downhill and locate the wharf, where the fishing road began, and they could ride along the bank again. Tom yanked the reins and Bones made his turn. Then the horse stopped short, and Tom left the saddle. He was thrown along the horse's neck and landed on the ground near a tight stand of pines Bones had halted to avoid. His wrist folded back and streaked fire up his arm. He saw his own broken nose, weirdly crooked through his tears, and sniffed until the blood dribbled down his throat. "Ruddy fucking trees," he said, wiping off his eyes. He was lacquered head to boot with slick black mud, but then he was up and riding Bones again, weaving downhill until the pines thinned away and he could finally see the wharf. They continued at a breakneck pitch, Bones rearing back to keep from tumbling over, Tom's straight legs rigid in the stirrups. The wharf was under water, but beside it, in the current, was a small rocky mound, like a miniature island. Silas Booker stood upon it, fishing with a gaff. He wore a smock and heavy boots and had a long, sturdy basket full of merkfins behind him. The river roared along, spewing up ocean-like and menacing around him. Petals from the spray were clinging to his hair, and he was so intent on balancing and managing his gaff that he didn't hear Bones approaching from behind. Tom dismounted, jumping over the bankside water to the mound. Rain came upon them. Giant drops began to fall, and it was dismal, like a sinister undoing of the dawn. When Silas hooked a merkfin and turned to put it down, he yelped at the sight of Tom's figure in the gloom, still dirty from the fall, like a man made of mud. Silas backed away, slipping on the flowers till he very nearly fell and tumbled off the mound. Tom caught his belt. "Silas, look at me. It's Tom." Just beyond them in the river went the woman on the branch. Silas took a breath and laughed through his beard. "Hell's britches! I thought you was the colorless man." "I need your gaff," Tom said, snatching it away. He shook the merkfin loose but missed the open basket. It was a fish with poison hairs and short, slimy legs, serpentine and bleeding and contorting round his heel. Tom kicked it into the water where it vanished with a slap and left a clump of flowerheads bloody in the foam. "Damnation!" Silas said, more dismayed than angry, grabbing back the pole and holding on tight. "Give me the gaff," Tom said, pulling it toward him. Silas, though a coward, was prodigiously endowed. He was ripe and wetly grizzled, his hard-worked knuckles whitening and split, and he would sooner fight a friend than lose his precious gaff. He said, "You know they only surface half a week every spring." "There's a woman," Tom began. "And that's a 2-shilling fish, you..."